Ever been paralyzed by fear? Ever felt your heart pound at the sight of a tiny spider or the thought of speaking in front of a crowd? Fear, my friends, is a universal human experience. It's that icy chill running down your spine in a dark alley, or the adrenaline rush when a car swerves into your lane. Phobias and irrational fears, however, take this universal experience to a whole new level. You see, fear in its basic form is a survival mechanism, a primal instinct that has kept our species alive. It warns us of potential danger and prepares our body for action. But what happens when this survival tool turns against us? When fear becomes excessive or irrational, it can hinder our daily lives, causing stress and anxiety. The key to overcoming these fears, understanding them. Delving into the psychology of fear is the first step in this journey, a step towards conquering your own phobias. Understanding the psychology behind fear is the first step towards conquering your own phobias. So, what causes us to fear? Why do some fears seem to defy logic? Well, let's dive into the human mind and unravel these questions. The psychology of fear is a complex, fascinating subject. At the heart of our fear response is a tiny almond-shaped structure in our brain called the amygdala. It's like a vigilant sentinel, always on the lookout for potential threats. When it detects danger, the amygdala sends out an alarm, triggering a series of physiological changes. Our heart rate quickens, our breathing becomes shallow, adrenaline surges through our body. It's the classic fight-or-flight response, preparing us to either confront the danger or escape from it. But fear isn't always tied to immediate, tangible threats. Sometimes our fears are learned. Picture a young child who's never seen a spider before. If she sees her parent scream at the sight of a spider, she might learn to associate spiders with fear. This is a form of observational learning. Our fear responses can also be shaped by cultural conditioning. For instance, many of us have been conditioned to fear snakes or sharks, despite the fact that we're much more likely to be struck by lightning than bitten by a shark. Now, it's important to distinguish between fear and phobia. Fear is a natural, adaptive response to danger. It's a survival mechanism that's kept our species alive for millions of years. A phobia, on the other hand, is an irrational fear that's out of proportion to the actual threat. For example, someone with a phobia of elevators might panic at the mere thought of stepping into one, even though the statistical likelihood of an elevator accident is extremely low. Fear, while a natural response, can become a problem when it starts controlling our lives. But remember, understanding the psychology behind our fears is the first step towards conquering them. So the next time you feel that familiar knot of fear in your stomach, take a moment to ask yourself, is this fear serving me or is it holding me back? Now that we've understood what causes fear, how can we overcome it? It's time to delve into the crux of the matter, the techniques and strategies that can aid us in taming our fears. One of the most effective methods to combat fear is exposure therapy. It's like the old saying goes, face your fears. The idea here is to gradually and repeatedly expose yourself to the thing that scares you in a controlled environment. Over time, this constant interaction reduces the fear response, making what once seemed terrifying much less so. Now let's talk about cognitive behavioral therapy, or as the folks in lab coats call it, CBT. This technique is all about changing the negative thought patterns that fuel your fears. It's about learning to see the fear-inducing situation in a new light. Instead of thinking, I'm going to fail, you learn to think, I can handle this. It's about challenging those irrational thoughts that amplify your fear and replacing them with more realistic and positive ones. In addition to these therapies, there are mindfulness techniques that can help. These involve focusing your attention on the present moment without judging it. That it's about accepting your fear, acknowledging it, and letting it go. It's about learning to sit with your fear without trying to escape from it. This acceptance allows you to reduce the power that fear holds over you. But remember, overcoming fear doesn't mean eliminating it completely. Fear is a natural part of life. It's a survival mechanism that has served us well throughout the ages. The goal is not to get rid of fear, but to learn how to manage it, to understand it, to control it. Overcoming fear is not just about feeling safer or more comfortable. It's about personal growth. It's about pushing your boundaries, stepping out of your comfort zone and becoming a stronger, braver version of yourself. It's about living, not just surviving. Remember, it's okay to be afraid, but don't let fears stop you from living your life to the fullest.